Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grid Live Pre-Race, your weekly pre-race show. Joe Samriego here, along with Kobe Lambeth from the Podium Finish and Adam Lemarese, our supercar expert. We got a lot to talk about, and especially a big shout out to all our Ultimate Sports Radio Network listeners. Matt White, of course, not with us today, but he'll be there on the Ultimate Sports Radio Network, and we're now 19 subscribers away from 200. Big thank you to our new subscribers this week. We'll start off with Formula One in Portugal, the Portuguese Grand Prix, round 3 of Sir Lewis Hamilton versus Max Verstappen. Very critical race. Essentially, both of them coming here with a win each. And one of the big things we saw was Max Verstappen being critical of Sebastian Vettel and Lando Norris for not giving him enough room during his flying lap at the end of Q3. Martin Brundle felt they did clear the way, but Max Verstappen was clearly frustrated with this. And of course, both of those drivers, Norris and Vettel, have Mercedes power, and Norris even was radio. Don't do him any favors. Is this mind games in Formula One? Is it really starting to pick up now?
The mind games starting to pick up. Well, Joe, I think there's always mind games in Formula One. No matter what's going on. Yes, sometimes we see mind games between teammates. We saw that a lot when Nico Rosberg was able to get that one championship over Lewis Hamilton, then he decided to retire. And we see mind games in other incidents as well. So I think mind games is just something that we're always going to see in Formula One, and the drivers are just going to have to get used to it because they're here to stay for the foreseeable future and probably for the rest of Formula One's existence.
I agree with you, Kobe. We've seen mind games in Formula One for as far back as I can remember. It's been a really great year so far in Formula One. I think that when it comes to Portugal, it's going to be Mercedes versus Red Bull, and overall, it'll be a race that the fans will remember for a long time to come.
Now you bring up Red Bull. They are starting 3rd and 4th, but eventful qualifying session for the two. Then, of course, Perez spinning out, and then Max Verstappen having that fast lap deleted because of track limits. Mercedes 1-2, but Bottas claiming pole this time. So this is a very delicate situation for Mercedes. Hamilton, 1 point ahead of Verstappen, and then you got Bottas. He is racing for a job in 2022. How delicate is this situation for Mercedes, and how's the best way to handle it if you are in Mercedes?
Well, for me, I believe that Mercedes needs to just continue what they're doing. I believe they are the manufacturer to be in Formula One this year. You've got two really strong drivers in both Hamilton and Bottas, and I believe those two will be contenders for the championship as the season goes along.
Yeah, definitely. The situation of Mercedes is interesting because Hamilton and Bottas, as you mentioned, Joe, they're racing for two different things. We're all hoping that we're going to see an epic championship battle that'll go down to the season finale between Lewis and Max. That would be incredible if we're able to see this back and forth for the rest of the season. And Valtteri Bottas, a lot of pressure on him to perform, especially with George Russell breathing down his neck, and he was really breathing down his neck in the last round at Imola. So definitely, it's gonna be quite a fight for Valtteri Bottas, and taking pole position today. That's certainly a great start for him and trying to keep his job heading into the next year.
Doing everything he can to keep his job next year. And you bring up a good point. After what happened at Imola, I feel there's a lot of pressure on Bottas to go out there and try to get this win. We saw him last year at this track, led every session except qualifying. Hamilton got the pole, got the win. Bottas, I feel he's really determined to go out there, get that win. For Mercedes, especially with Hamilton there, it's going to be really tricky that first lap when all of them are coming to that first corner, which, of course, is down the hill at the end of that front straight. Last year's race was really crazy. At the end of that first lap, we saw Carlos Sainz in the McLaren leading. He came out from mid-pack around everybody. Of course, grip, tire issues was a big thing in that first lap. The race was eventually won by Hamilton, Bottas second, and Max Verstappen third. Sergio Perez, 7th place, and of course, that was with his Racing Point team last year. That's now Aston Martin, where Sebastian Vettel got to Q3 first time in a long time, him in Q3, and a big improvement for him and Aston Martin. Can Vettel turn his season around tomorrow at the Portuguese Grand Prix?
Yeah, yes, certainly. I'll be honest with you, Joe. I was a little surprised to see Sebastian Vettel make it into Q3 because he's been struggling for the longest time, as you mentioned. It's been a very long time since we've seen Sebastian Vettel, try to finish up there in the points. And I think the last time Vettel finished in the points, it was actually last season in Turkey in mixed conditions. But besides that really good highlight from last season, it's been a real struggle for Vettel as his time in Ferrari ended. And then so far with Aston Martin F1, Lance Stroll has definitely gotten the best of him. And it looks like Vettel's been about a step or two behind. But certainly advancing to Q3, that's going to be a great boost of morale. And maybe Sebastian Vettel will finally have his best run with Aston Martin Formula One.
I completely agree with you, Kobe. Sebastian Vettel has had a lot of struggles since he left Ferrari to go to Aston Martin. But I believe if he finishes in the points tomorrow in Portugal, I believe that will be a confidence booster for him as the 2021 Formula One season continues.
A huge confidence booster, and I think you bring up the point. If he scores points, finish in the top 10. We know he's had bad luck. Just scoring those points, I'll build up to something bigger and better. Something we always talk about in all forms of motorsports, just getting that positive momentum going on your side, and definitely a top 10 finish for him. Aston Martin will be really big. Another big surprise we saw was Esteban Ocon getting to Q3 ahead of Fernando Alonso. We definitely encourage everyone in the chat room to talk about Formula One. And of course, next we'll have IndyCars in the chat room. You bring it up. We'll try our best to answer your questions right here on the air. Right now, let's preview IndyCar, which their first race is tonight.
Yes, Barber, St. Pete, and now Texas Motor Speedway. 3 consecutive weekends of IndyCar racing. However, this is a doubleheader weekend, the first one since 2011 at the track, with the Genesis 300 scheduled to take place today and the XPEL 375 tomorrow. And we'll see what happens with Texas Race 1 later today because the weather forecast, looking at that, there's some potential for some weather, but hopefully we'll find a gap heading into evening and be able to get the show in. But the weather for race 2 tomorrow looks absolutely wonderful. And last year, Texas opened the season in June with Scott Dixon winning. Prior to this weekend, all 32 IndyCar races at Texas Motor Speedway have been held in the month of June, so moving it up a month to May and being the first oval of the season is a change of pace. Dixon and Tony Kanaan, who's making his 2021 IndyCar season debut tonight, are the most experienced drivers in the field with 21 races apiece. Dixon, the 6-time series champion, 4 wins at Texas, tied most all time with Helio Castroneves, who isn't racing this weekend. 3rd and 5th place finishes at Barber and St. Pete. So typical Scott Dixon consistency. Do you think he's the favorite entering the weekend?
I do see him being a favorite entering the weekend. Overall, Chip Ganassi Racing, they're pretty fast. We saw Alex Palou in that first race weekend, and then we saw at St. Pete's as well. He is just always seems to be under the radar, but that's a big thing with his consistency, though. He's not drawing the headlines, but he's so quiet, and he's just always there at the end. With his experience there, I see him being a favorite this weekend.
I completely agree with you, Joe. I believe this weekend Scott Dixon will be the driver to beat at Texas. Like we talked about, he has a lot of experience there. He's won there, and it's just and I believe that if he finishes in the top 5, at least in both races, he will be a strong contender overall for the NTT IndyCar Series Championship.
And besides Dixon's 4 wins in 2008, 2015, 2018, and 2020, there are 5 other past Texas winners looking to add another trophy to their collection. And those drivers are Tony Kanaan, Will Power, Ed Carpenter, Graham Rahal, and Joseph Newgarden. Looking at the qualifying format this weekend, it's the same style we saw last year on the short oval, single car qualifying, 2 laps. Lap 1 sets the starting lineup for today's Genesis 300, and Lap 2 will set the grid for tomorrow's Xpel 375. Only 6 drivers in history have won from pole position, with Ryan Briscoe being the last one to do it just over a decade ago in 2010. However, track position might be crucial all weekend due to the concerns about the PJ1 track compound used for the NASCAR races. Josh Durbin from the Dallas Morning News says IndyCar is working really hard to make the on-track product more competitive this weekend, especially after the PJ1 generated a single group track last year. Moving up from the bottom was something the driver shied away from because it was way too slick up top. Those fears were confirmed several weeks ago when IndyCar tested here at Texas, and it still might be a little too risky to pass on the outside. According to Durbin, track president Eddie Gossage said they've had the tire dragging out on the track, trying to continue scraping off the PJ1 to widen the groove, and it really seems like although they've scraped as much as they can, the PJ1 is kind of like staying there, and it's still slick, so I don't know what they're going to do. And with the threat of a repeat from last year and knowing how the pole winner hasn't won in over a decade, how important will it be to qualify up front and maintain track position, especially if it's going to be really slick to try to make a move on the outside?
It will be, I believe if you start at least the top 15, you'll have a shot to win in Texas. Like you talked about, with the new compound they used in for the NASCAR races, I believe there will be, you will see 2 wide racing, and hopefully there'll be 3 wide racing. But overall, I think it'll be a really good work. I think the Texas Motor Speedway races will be really good this weekend.
One of the big things I'm looking at when it comes to this race at Texas is going to be who's starting in the top 3. I feel the winner's going to come from the top 3. They've been doing everything they can for that PJ1, but I feel that first race, tonight's race, is going to be really tricky for anyone to be willing to go out there. However, race 2, especially if we start seeing that outside groove has gotten to where you can make an outside pass. Race 2, that's where I think you're going to see a lot more competition and a driver who is probably going to be somewhere in the top 15, like Adam said, work his way towards the front if he can utilize that outside groove. But the big thing for tonight, qualifying, getting a lap, especially this first lap for tonight's race, getting that as your money lap. You can get the pole tonight, very strong chance of winning. And of course, if you know you messed up this first lap, we'll just re-get it together, put down a second fast lap, because you can get the pole for tomorrow's race.
Yeah, definitely. You bring up several good points there, Joe. First lap don't go well for you. But you can go out there, set a really fast second lap, and you can make up for it. And I really like this oval qualifying format personally. When they introduced it last year, I believe it was at either Iowa, Gateway, or both. I can't really remember off the top of my head, but I think it really sets up a different challenges for the drivers, and it's gonna be interesting to see as the drivers make laps and they put more rubber into their track. Race 2 might be more competitive, especially if they're able to go side by side on the ovals on the oval at Texas. I'm pretty sure that the drivers won't want this to be a processional single file affair, kind of like it was last year, where we didn't really see as much passing. And with 2 races this weekend, the driver is off to a strong. Well, actually, with 2 races in the book so far, the driver is off to a strong start, can continue the consistency and rack up more points, while others have an uphill battle and need to have a strong doubleheader weekend with very few mistakes. Minus Colton Herta, who's 5 points behind championship leader Alex Palou, the 3 other Andretti Autosports drivers have some work to do. Alexander Rossi, after 2 races, 16th in the points. James Hinchcliffe and Ryan Hunter-Reay, 20th and 21st after 2 races. Despite it being so early in the season, should there be a sense of urgency at Andretti to get it going?
Yes, the sense of urgency needs to be there, especially after what we saw last year. In fact, in Texas, we saw Andretti Autosport struggle. They had gremlins that prevented them from starting up towards the front. You can't say, okay, the first 2 races, it's early in the season. Yes, Colton Herta said everyone's going to have one bad race. But when you're 20th, 21st in the points, you need to start coming up. We know Scott Dixon may have one bad race. Well, if that bad race comes at the season finale and he's way ahead of you in this championship, You can't just rely on that. They really have to get it together and really try to score a top 10 finish. That would be a big, big win, especially for Ryan Hunter, James Hinchcliffe. After the bad luck they've had, if they could finish the race in the top 10 tonight, then they could carry that momentum to tomorrow. And especially if they get a good qualifying, bigger things ahead.
I completely agree with you, Joe. I believe Alexander Rossi, James Hinchcliffe, and Ryan Hunter need to step up their game this weekend in Texas, and I think they will. Alexander Rossi has had a lot of oval experience. Won the Indianapolis 500. James Hinchcliffe and Ryan Hunter are veteran drivers, so I believe if all three of those drivers have at least a top 10 finish in Texas in both races, they will be strong contenders as the season continues.
Like I said, I know people are gonna say that it's really early on in the season, but at some point, if you're in a hole like this, Alexander Rossi might be able to recover from this. But looking at his two teammates, Hinchcliffe and RHR, 20th and 21st, there's only like 22 or 23 full time IndyCar drivers, I believe. So they're like at the very back of all the full time drivers running for the championship, and even Roman Grosjean, who's not even running the whole schedule, is ahead of them in the points. So I really think, especially for Hinchcliffe and RHR, they really need to get the program going because if you have so many issues at the very beginning of the season, you're going to get in a deep hole that's going to be impossible to climb out of, and your championship might be your championship hopes might be over by the time we reach the midway point of the season. And we wondered over the off season, would Andretti Autosport be able to recover from all of the struggles we saw from them last season? It seems like Colton Herta is the top dog right now at Andretti because that Gamebridge Honda is running extremely well, and then Rossi, it seems like he's still trying to shake off all of the bad luck he's had dating back to last season. And Hinchcliffe, RHR, I think they're at the bottom of the totem pole there, and they're going to need to figure out something soon, or championship going to be game over. It might be after we get through the Indianapolis 500, as far as I'm concerned. And single car qualifying is scheduled for 4 p.m. Eastern time later today on Peacock TV. And coverage of the Genesis 300, a 212 lap race, gets underway tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time on NBCSN. The green flag going to drop at 7:45 p.m. Eastern. Then the XPEL 375, a slightly longer race at 248 laps. We have an earlier start time on NBCSN, with them coming on the air at 5 p.m. Eastern time, with the green flag dropping at 5:15 Eastern. So basically, come on the air and drop the green.
On the air, drop the green. One of the later races of the evening for the greater ranking. Of course, that'll be released after the IndyCar race, but the first race of the day will be Moto GP. They're back in Jerez. And once again, Fabio Quartararo is back on the pole, looking to get 3 wins in a row. This will be huge in MotoGP, considering the last driver to have a win streak that will go over 3 wins or more. That was Marc Marquez in 2019. No driver got more than 3 wins in a row last year. And of course, it's been quite some time, Marc Marquez, until he got 5 wins in a row in 2019. His former teammate, Franco Morbidelli, is second, and Jack Miller starting third for the Ducati. Current teammate, of course, for Fabio Quartararo, Maverick Vinales, he started way in the back. Just didn't get that good of a qualifying lap. Still in the top 10, but overall, the race 1 winner still has quite some time to get, quite some ground to make up. When it comes to the Yamaha factory team, can or has Quartararo become the number 1 driver for Yamaha factory?
I'm going to say yes, and I believe tomorrow tomorrow in Spain, you're going to have to beat Fabio to win. Right now, it seems he's the most dominant rider in MotoGP and on the Yamaha team. But there's several strong contenders who have a shot to win in Jerez.
Well, Fabio Quartararo, I don't think he's not just the number one driver for the Yamaha factory. I think he is the one rider to beat right now in MotoGP because his form is off the charts right now. And I think if you want to win races in MotoGP, you want to win this championship, you're gonna have to go through Fabio Quartararo because I don't really see anybody right now being a major challenge to him unless we see Marquez rediscover some of that old magic before his injury.
You bring up a good point. Last year at Jerez, when Fabio Quartararo got 2 in a row, he looked hard to beat. I think we even maybe have talked about it last year on Grid Life Pre-Race. You had to go through him. But then it seemed he lost his form and just started being inconsistent and falling towards the back. If Fabio Quartararo continues this impressive effort with that Yamaha team, I think he is going to be the driver to beat. Yes, he is probably already being seen as the number one driver for Yamaha and definitely win the field. If you're going to get the championship, if he's going to be on the top of his game, you're going to have to be on your best game to try to get past him. Of course, the prior past driver that everyone was trying to beat, Marc Marquez, he is starting 14th at Jerez, a track he has won at before. Matt from the World Motorsport League, which you can follow at grid_WNL, anticipating Marquez to be winless until the fall season around September, October. Does it appear Marquez's goal is just finishing rather than going for the win?
Well, Joe, at first I thought Marquez would win within his first few races back, but now after seeing what's going on with him now, I think Matt White from Great World Motorsport League might actually be onto something because it seems like Marquez is having a little trouble getting back in the swing of things since it's been such a while since he's been in such a competitive environment. And that's understandable coming back from severe injury and several setbacks. Yeah, so I definitely do think that by the end of the season we'll see Marquez looking like the Marquez of old. But I think for right now, just finishing and scoring points, that's really the big thing for him right now because when I worked actually right before I went to sleep, I saw that he had a big shun in practice. Yeah, I believe it was practice. I was like, oh my goodness, and people were like holding their breaths because it was a really big crash and knowing he's just coming back from an injury, we definitely didn't want to see Marquez get injured again at Jerez. This track that would have been really catastrophic for him. But I think overall, he just needs to focus on finishing the race, regaining all of that confidence, and then Marquez, the rest is gonna happen naturally.
I agree with you, Kobe. I believe Marc Marquez just finishes races and as long as he finishes races and he stays positive, I believe as the season goes along, he will win. But it just takes time after recovering from his injuries. Well, I think he'll win at least 2 to 3 races, but I think it will be hard for him to contend for the championship this year. Maybe we see him win the championship next year.
And of course, Marc Marquez, he is a 2-time grid ranking world champion in 2019 and 2018. One of the big things that's really interesting, Marc Marquez, considering since he joined MotoGP as a rookie, he has never finished lower than third in the MotoGP point standings at the end of the season. Of course, that's not counting last year when he missed just about every race except that first opening race of the year. Now, Ducati, both factory riders, they're starting up front. This hasn't been the greatest start for the season. A lot of hype about Miller and then Pecco coming to the team. We saw Pecco, a lot of early speed, but not a whole lot of results. Jack Miller, no results. And in fact, it was Johan Zarco in the non-factory team that has scored the points and even led the points for a while up until the last race weekend. Is this the first shot for Ducati, the factory team, to rebound?
I believe so. If Ducati scores in the points this weekend in Jerez, I believe they will be a contender for the championship. But I think they've got a long way to go, and I think it'll be awful hard for them overall.
Yes, this is definitely the first shot that Ducati has to rebound, and they just need to make sure they go out there, execute the game plan. But MotoGP, as you know, it's really competitive. So you need to be in your A game. If Ducati can put themselves in the right situation, I believe that they'll be perfectly fine this weekend in Jerez.
When it comes to Ducati, I might be a little bit more skeptical of their performance. I feel the Yamahas, as long as there's no issues, especially since we see Frank Morbidelli there in the Petronas team up front, that's going to be really hard. For Jack Miller to get that podium, he really needs to have the perfect race, take care of those tires, utilize the horsepower that Ducati has at this track. I can see him getting the podium. Pecco, he can surprise everyone again, just like he did in Qatar. One of the big things, of course, is just going to be a really fascinating race. And of course, MotoGP will start off all the racing Sunday morning, Formula One, and then of course we have the NASCAR Cup Series and a very entertaining name to the race at Kansas Speedway.
Yeah, it's a really entertaining name to say the least. The NASCAR Cup Series heading at the Kansas Speedway this weekend for the 11th race of the season, and that strange name that Joe was just talking about. The race is called the Bushy McBush Race 400. It was a fun name picked up from a fan contest. After 10 races, we have 9 different winners now with Brad Keselowski going to victory lane last week at Talladega Super Speedway. There are 8 past Kansas winners in the field. Denny Hamlin, Joe Logano, and Kevin Harvick are tied at the top. 3 wins apiece. It's a 267-lap race. First 2 stages, 80 laps each, and 107 laps for the final stage on the mile-and-a-half track. Brad Keselowski starts on the pole, and William Byron lining up beside him on the front row. We could be looking at our 10th different winner this weekend in 11 races. Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, 2020 Cup champion Chase Elliott, and Kyle Busch haven't found victory lane yet in 2021. So if you add in those guys, that would be winner number 10, 11, 12, 13. Getting closer to that magic number 16. So out of all of those drivers I just mentioned, which one of them had the best chance to become winner number 10?
I think when it comes to that list, particularly of those drivers, I'm taking a look at Denny Hamlin. The Toyota teams have been pretty fast all season long, and he has been the front runner. Talladega, he could have easily been up front towards the end for a win. However, we saw what happened, get involved in that backstretch crash, getting the aerodynamic damage, that essentially took him out of contention. Big thing for him, this is a good race for him to come back again. Top 5 finish, top 10, solid effort. However, if we do have another driver to become race winner number 10 this year, I think that pressure will start to build up. But we're getting to the point we need you to get wins to get those playoff points.
When it comes to those drivers you mentioned, Kobe, one driver I'm going to look out for is Chase Elliott. He's a defending series champion. He had a lot of momentum going into the season, trying to almost defend his championship. So far, he hasn't really looked like the series champion from last year. But I believe if he has a strong finish in Kansas, there's a lot of good tracks for him coming up, like the Coca-Cola 600, and of course at Darlington Raceway. I could see him winning at least at one of those tracks. And on another note, talking about Kyle Busch, all of us here at the Grid Network want to send our sincere thoughts and prayers to the Busch family after what we learned yesterday with Kyle's wife Samantha not able to have another baby. I know they've been trying for a long time, but we're all thinking of you and hopeful. And I know it wasn't easy. For them to find out.
Yes, Adam. I'm really glad that you brought that up. I saw the video myself yesterday. It was really sad to see all of the struggles that Kyle and Samantha Busch are going through, try to give Brexton a little sister, and I can't imagine how emotionally challenging that is for Samantha. So definitely, they're in my thoughts and prayers, and sending them a lot of hope for the future, and hopefully one day all of their dreams will be realized, and they'll be able to get exactly what they want, because that's just a heartbreaking situation for the Bushes right there. And going back to the question, the one driver that I'm going to be looking at is Kevin Harvick. It seems like Stewart Haas racing has started to improve a little bit. And hello to our friends there from Formula E Zone. Hope you're doing well, Jack. It's been a while since we've talked. Yeah, feel free to reach out. Yeah. But Kevin Harvick, I really think that team has been making some gains, especially since that organization as a whole has started off the season not on par with Stewart Haas standards, and it's gonna be interesting to see go heading into Kansas, because this is one of Kevin Hart's best tracks statistically. So I definitely think that this is a great place for him to rebound and get into victory lane for the first time in a while. And Denny Hamlin won the first Kansas race here last summer, and he has an average finish of 14.5, looking to continue a strong start to the season. And coming to this track, you have to be prepared for anything. We've seen long green flag runs, multiple hard crashes, and cautions that can come at any time. With the 550 horsepower package this weekend, the drivers will have to absolutely nail those restarts. If a caution flies late in the race, you have to put yourself in the right position, whether it's giving up track position for tires or staying out, hoping that clean air will prevail. I also mentioned the hard crashes that have occurred at Kansas Speedway. In 2017, Eric Almirola broke his back in a violent wreck and missed several races last year. Ryan Prix slammed a backstretch wall, and the impact lifted the car off the ground. In the Xfinity race, Anthony Alfredo, the Cup Series rookie, got turned into the wall inner and turned one on a restart, and Alfredo hit the wall so hard that he flipped over on his side and slid upside down on his roof. It's really rare to see a flip like that on a non-super speedway track, but Priest and Alfredo luckily got out of their cars unharmed. And I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I'm just wondering if you guys feel the same way as me. Is Kansas Speedway the most intimidating mile-and-a-half track on the schedule?
I'm gonna say yes. I know there's a lot of other 1.5 mile tracks on the schedule, but to me, Kansas has to be at the top. It's a track where it's a really nice track, really nice facility, and I believe tomorrow, if you started I believe if you started in at least the top 15, you'll have a shot. You'll have a shot to win in Clint Boyer's home state.
One of the big things when it comes to Kansas Speedway, I feel after they've done that repave, this track has really gotten a reputation for being hard to get a handling on. I mean, we can even see Jimmy Johnson just lose it, damage the car. I mean, this track has been really becoming sort of the harder track when it comes to the mile-and-a-half trials that we've seen a lot of people call the cookie cutter tracks. Well, this track, yeah, there might be another track out there that's very similar, but I feel this one, it really comes down to handling and the nature of this track, where we are seeing cars getting these vicious hits. It's really become the track where I think if you can master Kansas, you could be really good at all the other tracks. But definitely, I think whoever wins this weekend, they're going to be a favorite when we come to the other mile-and-a-half ovals. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens at Kansas.
Yes, anything can happen at Kansas. Might see a clean race, might see a race where cautions breed cautions, and also we hope we don't see it, but there's always the potential for those big accidents I've seen. And I do think that this is a very intimidating mile-and-a-half track. I always wonder, in comparison to the other mile-and-a-half tracks, we see crashes here and there, but for some reason, it really seems like Kansas Speedway really takes a bite out of these race cars. And two drivers looking to put a disappointing Talladega behind them are Kyle Larson and Matt Benedetto for different reasons. The last two races haven't been too kind to young money. The number 5 team completely missed the setup at Richmond and wasn't a factor at all during that race. Then they suffered a blown engine at the very beginning of the race at Talladega. So it was definitely a short day at the office, and they literally just showed up, blew an engine, and went home. So a extremely short race. The Benedetto started off the season with 3 bad races, which really put him in a hole. Then the Wood brothers got some luck on their side, and they haven't finished worse than 16th in the last 7 races, so starting to build some consistency there. And last week, Matt was in potential to potentially win at Talladega. He made the wrong block and a split-second decision in the closing laps and ended up finishing 5th. It was still a good day by most standards, but a win would have meant so much to him, especially since he'll be out of that ride at the end of the year. Earlier in the week for Grid Tonight, I was fortunate enough to ask him a question like, what would it mean to score the Wood Brothers 100 win as an organization? He said it's the one thing that he wants to accomplish before leaving the team, or he might not be able to live with himself if he fails to win with the Wood Brothers. His best finish at Kansas happened last fall. It was 12th. And looking at some of the upcoming tracks on the schedule, his best finishes at those tracks, his best finish at Darlington was 8th, 7th at Dover, 15th at Charlotte, 4th at Sonoma, and we have a second road course coming up soon, the new track at Circuit of the Americas. So here's my question for you guys. Which upcoming racetrack could give Matt Benedetto his best shot at winning his first career race and winning race number 100 for the Wood brothers?
When it comes to those tracks, the ones you mentioned, I think I lean towards probably Darlington or Dover. Yes, they're the monster mile. Yes, too tough to tame, tricky tracks. But if he could run a good, clean, solid race, he has the equipment. He just needs to have that good race. And especially if he continues finishing up towards the front, he's going to be assured a top starting spot. One of the big things was earlier when he was starting towards the mid-pack, later further back, you have to race your way up towards the front. If he could get another good finish at Kansas, he could really set himself up for Darlington, Dover, and some of the other races. One track I feel easily they'll be a big favorite at, and especially if they haven't gotten that win, is going to be the regular season finale at Daytona. They're really good at super speedways. The big thing is just running that perfect race. He almost did it at Talladega, and I think Daytona could be the biggest opportunity for him if they were to still be winless.
For me, the track I think he had a shot to win number 1 and number 100 for the Wood brothers is at the Coca-Cola 600 at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. As we all know, the race starts in the daytime, and it transitions into night. You're going to have a strong car for that race. It's the longest race of the season, and a lot of famous names have won that race. So could we see Matty D continue that momentum of having names like Earnhardt and Gordon and Johnson winning there? I believe it will happen on Memorial Day weekend.
Joe says Darlington or Dover. Not Matt. Adam thinks it's going to be the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and I think Matt Benedetto is going to have his best shot at one of the 2 road courses. I remember when he was in the '95 car at Sonoma, he did a really great job in the closing stages of that race. So I definitely think that it could happen at Sonoma, and Matt is certainly a solid road racer, and since we're heading to a new track, Circuit of the Americas, I think nobody's going to be at a real advantage there, and De Benedetto could certainly take home a win at Coda. Yeah, so definitely, I'm looking at the 2 road courses as his best opportunity there. And coverage of the Bushy McBusch race 400 starts at 3 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow, noon Pacific on FS1. And here's a friendly reminder that the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series are racing tonight at Kansas. Coverage on the FS1 at 7:30 p.m. Eastern.
That says now time for just about everyone's favorite part, pick a winner. We encourage everyone share on the chat room, the comments, and of course the hashtag pick a winner on Twitter. Who do you think is going to win each race? Normally I have the scoreboard up, but we don't have it available today exactly, but definitely Matt is leading with 6. So with this weekend, with all the races, somebody does a perfect sweep, you could really catch up to Matt. We'll start off with Formula One. Kobe, who do you have winning this race?
Bottas on the pole, but I'm really looking at the championship fight between Verstappen and Hamilton, and I'm gonna go with Valtteri Bottas' teammate, Sir Lewis Hamilton's gonna win.
When it comes to Formula One, I think it's going to be a Mercedes. I think it's going to be Hamilton. I just don't see Bottas pulling it off.
Okay, I'll just make it a clean sweep, and I'll just say Lewis Hamilton wins tomorrow. And I'll say that overall, I have been perfect with my Formula One picks this year. So hope it continues.
Hope it continues. Then we know Kobe and I also have a point as well too. So we're really interested to see if Hamilton could pull that off. MotoGP versus that race at Jerez. I'm going to go with a Yamaha rider, but I'm not going to go with Fabio Quartararo. I'm going to go with his former teammate, started second in the race, Franco Morbidelli. I believe this is the race he has shown time and time again. When he's perfect, he's hard to beat. He needs that perfect start. I think Franco Morbidelli is going to get that win.
When it comes to MotoGP, I'm going with the pole sitter, Fabio Quartararo. Like we talked about, he's the number one rider at Yamaha, and he is the rider to beat in MotoGP. So why not go with the favorite?
Yes, he's certainly the favorite, and that's exactly why I'm going with Fabio Quartararo to win the race at Jerez this weekend.
And now, NASCAR Cup Series, Kansas Speedway. Adam, who do you got?
I'm going with the driver that needs a lot of momentum, and I believe he'll pick up his first win of the season. I'm going with Chase Elliott. Oh, you're on.
When it comes to the NASCAR Cup Series race, one of the big drivers I'm going to be looking at is definitely William Byron. I feel he is super confident at a new level where he is going to try and get that win. Now it's going to come down to two IndyCar races. We have the two races Saturday and Sunday. When it comes to Saturday's race, Adam, who do you have winning?
I'm going to go with the driver that we talked about earlier on the show. Race one, I'm going with Scott Dixon.
For race two, I'm going to go also with Scott Dixon as well. I just feel he is always very consistent when it comes to winning the races. Kobe, who do you have? Seems to be a little bit more technical difficulties. Definitely will be sharing Kobe's picks later on. When it comes to Sunday's race at Texas Motor Speedway, it's going to be a very exciting race. Adam, when it comes to Sunday's race for the IndyCar Series at Texas, who do you see winning that race?
I'm going to go with Alexander Rossi to rebound after his not so good start to the IndyCar season.
That will be a huge momentum builder for Alexander Rossi. When it comes to Sunday's race, I'm going to go with a driver that at one point, we all remember in Texas, he was nearly upside down on that front stretch, sliding. I'm going with Joseph Newgarden. I think this is going to be the race where those Penske cars are always good in qualifying. I could see him getting that fast lap when it comes to the second lap in qualifying today, because that first lap, that'll set the field for tonight. The second lap will set the field for essentially Sunday's race. And I know Kobe, his picks for NASCAR, he has Kevin Harvick, IndyCar, Alexander Rossi for race one, and Scott Dixon for race number two. So definitely going to be very exciting to see how everyone's picks turn out. And we encourage everyone, once again, be sure to share your picks on the comment section, as well as our Twitter at Grid Ranking or Grid_WML. And we encourage everyone to subscribe to the Grid Network. We want to thank everyone that subscribed this week. We are now essentially at 182 subscribers, very close to that 200. We want to hit that 200 mark during the month of May. That'd be really super. So please like and subscribe, and be sure to follow us on other social media forms, including Twitter at Grid Ranking at Grid_WML, Facebook, Instagram at Grid Network, and TikTok. There we have our Monday thoughts, short videos as well, recapping news and everyone's thoughts on some of the big races going on in the upcoming weeks ahead. And of course, our Patreon supporters, big thank you to Colin. We encourage everyone to check out our Patreon, invest in the Grid Network, help us keep on the air throughout 2021, and check out Publis. Consider getting your furry buddy something really nice, like a new dog leash, clothing, and accessories for dogs of all sizes, and 10% of your purchase goes towards helping homeless, sick, and rescue dogs, a great cause that everyone in the Grid Network support. And if you missed it, we have a brand new episode of Life on the Grid that premiered on Friday evening with motorsports writer and photographer from Motorsport Tribune and colleague of Kobe Lambeth from the Podium Finish, Luis Torres. This is an episode that you do not want to miss. A lot of raw emotions, passion. I think everyone will enjoy it. I can definitely say Kobe Ben Schneider did a wonderful job with that show, and we want to thank everyone for watching, including for being on the show, Kobe Lambeth. This week especially, a lot of great work this week. Super grateful for you, Kobe. Adam, our supercar expert, definitely always a pleasure having you here on the show. I'm Joe Samaniego from the Grid Network. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time, and enjoy the races. Joe Samaniego here. Want to invite you to go check out Publis. Publis is a dog clothing and accessory company based in Austria. 10% of each of your purchases goes to helping dogs in need, whether it's homeless, sick, or ill dogs. This is one of the reasons why we support it. Kiska here is a rescue dog from rural Alaska and our Grid office dog. We care about our furry buddies, and we know you do as well. Definitely check out Publis.com. There's a link on the video description, and by clicking on that link, you get a 10% discount on your purchase as well.